Okay, let's now proceed with the next topic, which is using procedural abstraction. So talking about the concept of procedural abstraction, so of course, the concept is that functions should be designed so they can be used as black boxes. So which means to use that particular function, the declaration and comment should be sufficient. So what we mean by that is as long as the declaration is there and of course proper uh, documentation via the comments are provided, so that is enough to tell us what the program does as well as what the program expects for input as well as the output that it is going to produce. So following the concept of black box, we simply know what the program does, but it's not important how the program does it. Of course, the programmer doesn't need to know the details of the function as long as he knows how to use it. So in this case, we can take as example functions calling functions. Of course, it's actually possible for you to write a function that calls another function. So, a function body may contain a call to another function because in the first place, if you're going to define a function, of course, it's a function definition basically contains all the statement that it needs to execute. And of course, a function statement is actually actually includes function calls. So the call function declaration must still appear before it is called. Of course, that's one thing that you need to satisfy. So before you can call a function, of course, it should be declared first. Okay, so here's an example. Okay, the function order calls another function, the swap values function. Okay, so in this case, the swap values function is called if n1 and n2 are not in descending order. So in this case, of course, we have here a little if statement, which becomes if it becomes true, the following statement or function call will be executed. So here's an example. Okay, so we have here an example. So we have the following function declarations with their corresponding formal parameters. Okay, and for our main function, okay, we can see here the function calls. But anyway, let's take a look at the function definitions. So in this case, here it is. Okay, so the function order is actually calling another function, which is the swap values function. Okay, so what happens is that, of course, if you take a look at this if statement, and if it gives a true value, the following function call will be executed. Okay, so anyway, let's run this example. Okay, let's enter two integers. Okay, so that's how it goes. But anyway, as you can see, the output of the program is really not that interesting, but the point is it is actually a demonstration of how we write functions which call another function. So talking about pre and post conditions, of course, when we say pre, it refers to before, and post refer to after. So this actually refers to the conditions that we need to satisfy, or the conditions that are assumed before the program execution, as well as the conditions that will hold true after the execution. Okay. So for the precondition, this will state what is assumed to be true, the function is called. So for example, a function should not be used unless the precondition holds. So therefore, we need to satisfy a number of conditions first, whether that would be a set of input, something like that, or the initialization of certain variables. Next, we also have the postconditions, which describes the effect of the function call. So this tells what will be true after the function is executed. And if the function returns a value, that value is also described, and changes to call the reference parameters are also described. So how do we put these things together? Of course, this is how we do it. So we put the preconditions and postconditions of our function actually in the form of comments. Okay. So looking back, we all know what comments are and how to write comments. So basically, they will be ignored by your compiler. But of course, comments are really useful when you are documenting your program, such as this one. Okay. We are placing here the precondition and the postcondition for this particular function. The condition that needs to be satisfied before we use the function, as well as um, the condition that will hold true after the function execution. Okay, so here's an example. So looking back at this function, so we now place the precondition and the postconditions for the Celsius function. So at least we will know what those parameters are, what is assumed before the execution of the program, as well as what should be returned after execution. So why do we need to use preconditions and postconditions? So of course, the preconditions and postconditions should be the first step in designing a function. So that will actually serve as a guide on what the program should do. It specifies what a function does. So therefore, it's really important to always specify what a function should do before designing how the function will do it. So anyway, it's just like creating an outline or creating a draft for a particular function before you actually implement it. So therefore, it can help us minimize design errors. We could also minimize time wasted writing code that doesn't match the task at hand. So as you can see, it will really save you time and effort since you already have the precondition and postconditions for your function. So at least you now have an idea on how your function should work. So we have here a little case study. So anyway, I'm not going to elaborate all of this. I will leave this to you as an exercise. So you just check the code that we have. Okay. So those are the following precondition and postconditions. Okay. So you can just look that up, and I hope that you practice this particular example by yourself. But anyway, here's the corresponding program for this case study. And if you take a look at our example, the code is actually here. The code for exercise 4.9. So everything is here. Okay. So you can just work it out and practice by yourself. Okay. So that's it. Next. Okay, so that would be for section 4.3. So at this point, you already know how to define a function in the body of another function. So in this case, we've already seen how to write functions that call another function. So later on, as you do your programs, that will actually provide you a lot of flexibility on writing programs that are getting more flexible and getting more complex as you learn more skills. So that would be it for that topic. We will proceed to the next one.